Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode number 32 of the World of Sports podcast. I am your host, Diego Sandoval, joined, as always, by my co-host, Logan Ring. Logan, say what's up to the people.
What's up, everybody?
We've got a good little episode in store for y'all. It is Friday, March 12th. That is when this episode is being recorded and will be published on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. We will be talking about our NBA Midseason Awards and kind of comparing them to what we had at the beginning of the season. Um, and then obviously we have lots of news, especially in the NFL world. We're going to cover all of that. Franchise tag deadline has come and go. And then we're going to end it off by giving our top 10 outfielders in the MLB. Yes, outfielders. We decided to go with all of the outfielders because it's a position left, center, and right in the MLB that fluctuates quite often. Players, go one season playing left and the other season playing right, and they'll switch back and forth. So we just figured it'd make it more simple to go with just outfielders. If you're watching on YouTube, like, comment, subscribe, hit all those buttons. If you're listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, give us a follow, give us a like, give us a rating. And then, you can follow us on all of our social medias, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. You can find us by just looking up the World of Sports podcast. So, let's get right into it. And as always, we start with the news from around the leagues. Like I said, lots of NFL news, but we're gonna push that off until the end of the news. We're gonna start with the MLB, and it was announced earlier this week. I believe it was Monday or Tuesday, that the Mets and Francisco Lindor are beginning extension talks. He's one of those shortstops whose contract is up at the end of this season, but just got traded to the Mets. It looks like he wants to be there, and I think it's a smart move to make him their kind of franchise guy.
Yeah, last week or one of the previous weeks, we rated our shortstops, and I had him at 1, you had him at 2. So obviously he's one of the best in the league, and I mean the Mets would be dumb not to pursue a guy like that. He's can be the best player on the team for most teams, so I think this is a great idea, and I'm excited to see the Mets this year.
For sure, Lindor, that kind of upgraded offense to obviously go along with DeGrom, Syndergaard when he comes back. They just got a lot of pieces that if they can put it all together, they'll be an interesting team to watch. Staying in the MLB, Joey Votto of the Cincinnati Reds has tested positive for COVID-19 this week. That most likely means he'll enter a 2 to 3 week quarantine away from the team, which the MLB season is 3 weeks away. I think it's 3 weeks. And if he's not back in time, that's obviously a big blow for the Reds, who I don't know how good they're going to be this year. But he's obviously one of the best hitting first basemen in the league, just consistently.
Yeah, I mean, this is what we're all hoping doesn't happen, is that COVID just starts taking over the league. It happened last year to a certain extent. Didn't do terrible, but like teams like the Marlins were really affected by it. So I hope Joey Votto's fine. I hope nobody else on the team was in contact with him or anything, but I'm sure he'll be fine.
Yeah. And last piece of news from the MLB, Zach Britton, reliever for the New York Yankees, is expected to miss at least a month to begin the season. He underwent elbow surgery. And, I'm not the biggest Yankee fan. It seems like in the MLB, if you're not an avid Yankees fan, you don't really like the Yankees. But it just seems like every single season, it's just injury, injury, injury. And the team can be so talented when healthy, but it just never happens. So, I mean, this is just adding on to it.
Yeah, you said it perfectly right. It sucks for them.
Yeah, you don't really know because it's hard because they're so talented. And we're going to do all of our predictions in a couple episodes, closer to the MLB season. But it's so hard to judge them because if they're pun intended, if they stay healthy, they're arguably best top 2, definitely top 3 teams in the league. So we'll see. You obviously don't want to see players get injured, but it just seems like a trend for the Yankees. so that's what we got from the MLB. Little news, just spring training has been going on. Teams are looking good. It looks like the season's going to carry on. Oh, and then just some news. Um, States and stadiums have begun to announce that they're going to hold fans this year. So it's exciting for baseball, especially as we're kind of seeing the light at the end of the tunnel with this whole pandemic. Hopefully, um, it'll be good to get fans back in the stands. It's just good for baseball and good for sports.
Yeah.
And then in the NBA, a couple pieces of news. Karis LeVert will play this Saturday, tomorrow, for the Indiana Pacers. He'll make his Pacers debut. Great story for him to come back this season. He was traded and they discovered he had a tumor or a growth, whatever you want to call it, in his kidney. And everyone was kind of like, whoa, like that's major. But, he had a successful surgery and it's pretty miraculous that he's back this soon.
Yeah, I think everybody's sort of rooting for him. It was almost good that he got traded. He said it himself that, like, I mean, why would you just like look at somebody's kidney randomly? But
Right.
I mean, it's awesome that they found this. But yeah, I'm really excited to see him play. I think he's going to be good for the Pacers. And I know you've been talking about him with your fantasy team, so I know how excited you are.
Yeah. That should be interesting, that team, because they're built around Sabonis and Brogdon, adding in a third. He's a pretty offensive heavy player. He'll take his fair amount of shots. And I mean, we saw him at the beginning of the season with the Nets. He was averaging, between 17, 18, 19 points a game. So we'll see how that whole offense pans out. But I'm looking forward to seeing LeVert back out on the floor. Kristaps Porzingis of the Dallas Mavericks is believed to be available for trades. Mark Cuban kind of shied away from this a couple of weeks ago, but then there was a report saying that organizations still feel like he's on the market and that they're treating him like he's on the market. So I don't really. I mean, he hasn't been great. It's just Kristaps says one thing is the injuries, and he just can't really stay on the court for a consistent amount of time. I don't know
Yeah,
what they look for in return, but I don't know.
it's a really weird player to gauge what you would get back for him because he has the potential to be like an all-star,
Right.
but also like you said, he could just be injured for a couple more seasons and he's what, like 7'3", so
Mm-hmm.
it's obviously possible. Um,
Especially a 7'3" guy that stretches the floor and is, not just posted in the paint. You're going to get injuries.
yeah, and he's also not a good defender somehow. I feel like earlier in his career he was, but he's just been terrible this year. So you need another center around him, and it's kind of weird having a 7'3" power forward. I mean, it's there's no positions in the game as much anymore, but it's still a little weird. And I guess Mark Cuban doesn't love his fit with Luka, but yeah, I guess they're just looking to raise the ceiling a little bit because I don't know how far this team can go.
Right. And the way they're built right now, the Mavericks are in that weird gray area that we talk about sometimes where it's like they're not they don't have enough to win the finals, but they're also not, a lottery team necessarily. So it's like, which direction do you go? And depending on what they would get back for Porzingis, I feel like that would gauge which direction they would go. So we'll see if he gets traded. The deadline is coming up in the next couple weeks. So obviously we'll keep you guys updated because we got you. Your Cleveland Cavaliers have signed my Los Angeles Lakers former guard Quinn Cook to a 10-day contract. I don't know, just minor piece of news. I don't know. Do you see him making the full roster?
I hope he does. We really need a backup point guard, and they kind of like Coach JB Bickerstaff sort of swaps Colin Sexton and Darius Garland, but I like seeing both of them on the floor at the same time. And then our backup point guard is basically Damian Dotson, and
Mm.
that man is a shooting guard. He is not a great passer, so I hope Quinn Cook gets a chance at least because I like him.
Yeah, he played. If you rewind a couple years, he played a solid role for the Warriors when they won their championship, and then when he came to the Lakers, he was he came in like in the last 4 minutes of a blowout game. Usually that was like what he did, just because the Lakers were so solid at his position. Rondo, this year Schroeder, Caruso, all those guys start ahead of him. And so I think Quinn Cook definitely deserves another opportunity to have consistent minutes in the NBA, and should be interesting to watch. The San Antonio Spurs are working to trade LaMarcus Aldridge. It is similar to, we've talked about before, the Andre Drummond and Blake Griffin situation, where it's kind of like, okay, we acknowledge you're not going to play any more games for this team. We're either going to trade you or buy you out. So, I mean, LaMarcus Aldridge, I feel like could still, obviously he's getting up there in age, but I think he could definitely still contribute to a contender. Obviously, this might just be me being a Lakers fan, but the first team that pops up in my head is the Lakers, because, we've seen they've been struggling with injuries, obviously, to Anthony Davis. So having another big that can stretch the floor definitely helps them. But no matter where he goes, I think it's to a contender.
Yeah, I would like to see him on a team like the Blazers too, even though,
Back on the Blazers.
yeah, I think that'd be really fun. And Lillard has said how much he liked him as a teammate. So maybe to make him happy, but I think he'd also help their team a lot. And the Blazers are in a weird situation too, where I don't think you could consider them as contenders yet, but it seems like they've just been a piece away for the past 5 years or something.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I think that they should try something like this. It could work maybe.
The Blazers are for sure an interesting team to make moves, because we know what Damian Lillard does. CJ McCollum has been hurt. Yusuf Nurkic has been hurt. And,
They're always hurt.
if those guys come back and then they maybe trade or do something to get another piece, that's an interesting team to watch as like a dark horse. Maybe not, NBA Finals contender, just because there's so many stacked teams in this league, but just to make a deep playoff run. In terms of parting ways, sticking on that kind of trend, the Rockets and PJ Tucker are parting ways. This happened last night. He was upset. Really, he got like audibly mad to a coach, I guess, apparently, because he was a healthy scratch, which basically, when coaches or owners, whoever does it, it basically means like, we don't want you playing tonight. I don't care if you're fine. And he took that poorly, and he explained how he wants to be traded to a contender, or he wants to be on a contending team. So again, it's a similar situation where really any contender can use him. It's just what they're going to do in terms of trading or buying out. There's really not much else to say.
Yeah.
Again, same trend of buyout trade. Andre Drummond, he's been just riding the bench for the Cavs for the past couple of weeks.
Healthy scratch for the last month.
But the two teams that have kind of emerged as interested in him are the Lakers and Nets. Most people's, they're mine, top two contenders for the NBA Finals. I'd say they are up there at 1 and 2. I wouldn't be mad at either order, but that's another discussion. I think the Lakers announced that they'd be more interested in a buyout situation if the Cavs were to buy him out and then they sign him for, I'm assuming, a lot less money than what he makes now. And the way the Nets have been working, I'm assuming they'd probably do that same thing.
Yeah, with the way cap space works, I mean, I don't think either of them can actually get Drummond without trading basically all of their role players and then signing everybody else to minimum deals. So they kind of have to buy him out for this. I really wanted to trade him because I wanted something back at least, but it's been a month. So please just, I just want to move on from him basically. Like, I have no hard feelings toward Drummond. I think he's actually handled his situation well, but they're just dragging this out, and I feel bad for him at this point. Like, I just hope he gets somewhere that wants him.
Yeah. And he's going to contribute. He'll get his double-double if he gets the adequate amount of minutes. We've seen him put up 30 and 25 games before. So, I mean, we'll see. So that's all we got from NBA news. Now, huge week in the NFL. This past week, it was the franchise tag deadline. If you do not know what the franchise tag Just a quick rundown. Teams that, when a player becomes a restricted free agent, which is basically like you're a free agent, but if another team offers you a contract, your old team can match it and they automatically bring you back. So you have a choice, but not really if your team wants to bring you back. And what a franchise tag does is basically just secure the player for 1 year, one extra year, meaning the next year they'll be a free agent. So each team has a franchise tag to use on a player. Obviously, it's used on a player that's not signed to like a multi-year contract. So, for example, the Chiefs don't use their franchise tag on Patrick Mahomes because he's already signed to the team for 9 more years. But before we get into franchise tags, arguably the biggest news in sports this week was that Dak Prescott got his deal. He got his 4-year, $160 million deal, a $66 million signing bonus, which is the highest ever. And this year alone, he's making, I think it was $72 million.
Dang.
That's a lot of money. And the whole holdup for the longest time was Dak wants $40 million a year. Jerry Jones doesn't want to give it to him. And I guess he got Jerry Jones to cave because obviously 4 years, $160 million, do the math, it's there. But I think it was a no-brainer for the Cowboys, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, they have the money to spend. They don't have a ton of talent on the team, so why not get your guy? So yeah, I think this is perfect for him and for them. And I feel like Dak Prescott, like I feel really good for him that he finally got that deal to not just get 1-year franchise tags or whatever. He actually gets that, like,
that's what he was getting for the past 2 years, and he gets getting
that
pretty
sure
upset
money
with
now.
It. So yeah, he got his money. And good for him. But there's the other side of the argument, that quarterbacks shouldn't get paid, the $40 million a year that Prescott just did. There's the argument that in order for a team to be completely successful and be an actual Super Bowl contender, quarterbacks have to take less money so that money can be spent elsewhere. And I think the perfect example is Tom Brady. He's done it his entire career. And I feel like it's part of his career that people don't really pay attention to. And I think it's one of the main reasons why he's been so successful. Obviously, 7 rings. Like, what? But he did it again this season. He signed an extension with the Bucs through 2022, as well as reworking his deal from this year so that he saves the team $19 million. In the NFL, that's a lot of money to spend on really whatever position you want. And, that's, like I said, the two different sides of the coin is, do you give the quarterback all the money in the world, or do you try to work with the quarterback to give a better team around him? And I think Brady's the perfect example of that.
Yeah, and everybody always criticizes him that, I mean, he's had the better team, he's had the better weapons for all this, but like you said, there's a reason for that. He's being unselfish. I know he's got the money already. I mean, he's definitely
he's
not.
also married to Giselle, who I think might make more money than him. I'm not even kidding.
It's crazy. But I mean, still, this is just an unselfish move that he's done for so long. So it's great for him. I mean, I'm excited. He's the greatest of all time already, and he's still not done. So
right,
we'll see what he does.
And as good as I think Dak's deal is for the Cowboys, the best scenario would have been for something like this to happen, but we just don't see it in the NFL really, or really in all sports. We don't really see superstar players rework their contracts for the team, which is unfortunate, but it is what it is. Staying on that trend, it was reported this morning. I think it was 15 minutes ago, right when we started. Patrick Mahomes is reworking his contract, saving the team $17 million. He is reworking his $21 million signing bonus because he wants to make the team better. So, I mean, it's quarterbacks going out of their way, taking money out of their pocket to, improve their team, which is just, that's what makes teams win. Obviously,
Yeah,
Chiefs
it's a
and
good
Bucks,
idea.
Chiefs and Bucks, who's in the Super Bowl this year. So it's definitely something to chew on. It's a tough decision for teams because you want a solid quarterback, and most quarterbacks won't stay if they don't get their money. But it's been proven that if a quarterback takes less money, the team's going to be more successful. So it's just a constant balancing act in the NFL. Staying in the quarterback news, Cam Newton has re-signed with the Patriots to a one-year deal worth up to $14 million. I still think that they draft a quarterback this year, just because I feel like that's the way Belichick's going to roll. He's going to draft a young guy. Mac Jones is the guy that I think they're probably looking at from Alabama, and just work him up. But I think Cam Newton as kind of the placeholder guy for next year is a good move.
Yeah.
Now into the franchise tags. So these are guys, like I said, they were free agents, but the team decided to bring them back for one more season. And the players really don't have a choice in that. You get franchise tagged and you're stuck there. And one of the guys that has been stuck on his team is Allen Robinson. I am a firm believer that if Allen Robinson has a good quarterback with him, he is a top 5 receiver in the NFL. He has put up so many numbers and such consistent numbers, having Mitch Trubisky and Blake Bortles as his 2 quarterbacks in his career. Those guys aren't good if you aren't aware. And he has the least amount of drop passes in his time that he's been in the league compared to all other receivers, and yet he's had the least he has the lowest percentage of passes thrown on target to him, which is like, I think it was something like 30 something percent of his passes are on target, and he's still putting up crazy numbers. And I think he's top 10. I think he could deliver top 3, top 5 production with a good quarterback. But he's stuck in Chicago for at least one more season. Sorry, Allen Robinson. Also, wide receiver Chris Godwin was franchise tagged with the Buccaneers. I'm sure he's fine with that. Obviously working with Tom Brady, they're going to try to go back to back. They're bringing back most of the same team. So I think that's a good call for the Buccaneers. The Giants franchise tag Leonard Williams. He's their head of their defensive line and defense overall. I think it's in their best interest to sign him to a bigger contract and extend him, just because I see him improving and manning up that front in the years. Giants, another pun. Manning up that front 7 for a couple years to come. So I think Leonard Williams, it's in the best interest of the Giants for him to stay. Now, Logan, I know you don't know much about you're not about NFL, but I'd say I'm a bigger NFL fan than you are.
Yeah.
I pay attention to it more, but so I'm sorry if it's just me talking here, but hey, it's a throwback to the first, 20 some episodes of this when it was just me. So if you're a fan back then, you'll love this segment. Because there's still a good amount of news left. I'll try not to spend too much time on it because we got good segments later in the podcast. The Texans signed Mark Ingram, 1 year, $3 million deal, veteran running back. Texans are going to suck next year, especially without Deshaun Watson. So also, when I talk fast, I get brutally honest. So I might start doing that. I actually want to talk about this. The Chiefs cut Eric Fisher and Mitchell Schwartz, both of their starting offensive tackles, left and right tackles this year. Why? We saw how Mahomes is so good, right? He's so good, but no quarterback will succeed with no offensive line. And we saw in the Super Bowl, he was missing. Fisher was out, I believe, as well as I think 1 to 2 offensive guards. And dropping those 2 guys from the team is huge. And I feel like it won't get talked about because it was kind of a March move and the season starts in September. But I feel like come September, if the Chiefs don't make another move to get an offensive lineman or bring back 1 to 2 of those guys, Mahomes is going to have a tough time next year. In New Orleans, the Saints cut Emmanuel Sanders. I think it was just, salary cap move. Veteran, hasn't had much production. Titans cut Malcolm Butler, kind of the exact same situation as Emmanuel Sanders. The Buccaneers re-signed Levante David, 2-year, $25 million deal. Again, they're bringing back the same squad because they've got a team full of guys that are willing to take less money to make that team better. So I think the Buccaneers are here to stay, at least for the next 1 to 2 seasons. Lions are not franchise tagging Kenny Golladay, so he is going to become a free agent. When he's healthy, he's a touchdown machine. And I think in the right system, he'll be a top 15 wide receiver in the league, especially with a good quarterback. So should be interesting to see where he goes. Aaron Jones is a free agent. He didn't get tagged by the Packers, but it is the team. The feeling amidst the team is that they want to bring him back. So we will see about that. Aaron Jones, again, when healthy, top 10, top 15 running back in the league. Hunter Henry is a free agent. Didn't get franchise tagged by the Chargers. Top 10 tight end in the league, you could argue. I'd put him in there probably. So we'll see where he goes. Hassan Reddick, 12 and a half sacks last year. Defensive end for the Cardinals, didn't get tagged. He'll be a free agent. Lots of stuff happened. And guess what? We still got 2 more. The Raiders traded Trent Brown to the Patriots, back to the Patriots. He was on the Patriots, got traded to the Raiders. Now he's back on the Patriots for a 2022 5th-round pick. This is similar to what you see in the MLB when teams trade for a guy that's on the last year of their contract. Trent Brown will be a free agent next year. So I'm not sure how long he'll stay in New England, but his contract is up next season. And Joe Burrow is on pace to return week 1 after tearing his ACL last season. Great to see. I think Burrow is going to be a top talent in the league in years to come. So it's good to see that he'll be back. Whew. That was good.
Hey, you did a good job.
That's what we got. That's what we got. Lots of NFL stuff, lots of contracts, lots of free agents, lots of everything. So, and I know we don't cover NFL that much, at least in the past few weeks for sure, just because it's the off season and they're in a lull. But NFL draft is coming up soon. So we will definitely be covering that. I will make Logan do some research so that I am not the only one talking. So look forward to that, NFL fans. But for now, sticking with our NBA and MLB. First segment of this second segment, if you want to count the news, is our NBA Midseason Awards. So the season has reached its halfway point for most teams, just because some teams had to deal with cancellations and postponements in games. The All-Star weekend was last weekend. It was surprisingly, it was a decent All-Star weekend. If we're being honest, I thought it would be worse just because I felt like there would be no energy there, but there was a good amount of energy. Players looked like they were having fun. To look back at our All-Star challenge predictions. You had Obi Toppin. I had Anthony Simons in dunk contest. Simons won. Worst dunk contest of all time.
Terrible.
I think we can agree on that.
The winning dunk was Anthony Simons jumping up and then motioning a kiss towards the rim and then dunking it.
In any other, if there was literally any other dunk from any other dunk contest, those would be like 30s. Most of the dunks that happened, that Cassius Stanley did a normal in-game dunk for one of them. Like he threw it up and then just.
But also his first dunk was the best, and then
right.
Also it got like the worst score. So it was all around just weird. It was during the halftime of the All-Star game anyway, so it's not like people were hyping it up as, oh, this is a big event. But it was just kind of sad because, first of all, I mean, there wasn't a lot of fans, but also like the players weren't even getting hyped. They were not terrible dunks, but they happened, and then nobody even like got up. So it was kind of like, I mean, the energy was just kind of weird, but it happened.
I'm hoping that's just because of COVID and there weren't a lot of fans, but we have kind of seen a trend where there's less and less excitement around the dunk contest. Obviously, Levine and Gordon gave us shows, but aside from those two, really, it's kind of been like, let's have someone more exciting in the dunk contest.
Yeah, if you don't get the big names, it's not, the publicity around it is not going to be great, and then it's going to be like it just was that one.
Yeah. So the 3-point contest, I had Zach LaVine. He got first rounded. You had Booker, but then he, obviously didn't participate. And then you picked Steph. Steph won it. He's just ridiculous. There's not much else to say, but he just
Mike
balled
Conley
out.
did well too, though. I
Yeah,
want to
shout
give a
out
shout
Mike
out to him.
Conley. So I was almost gonna make you pick Mike Conley because he was Booker's substitution. And then the skills challenge. I had Domantas Sabonis. You had Chris Paul. Sabonis won it. It was big men in the finals. Sabonis and Vucevic.
Yeah.
So
Chris Paul and Luka had a bye first round, whatever, and then they both lost. And
both
Chris Paul
lost.
missed a layup, so
Yeah.
it was bad.
Okay, so NBA Midseason Awards. Just who we have winning each award if the season were to end right now. We'll start with MVP. So at the beginning of the season, we both had Luka Doncic as our MVP. He hasn't had a bad season, but just not as good as these guys, as some guys up here. My midseason MVP is Joel Embiid.
Yep.
You have him as well.
I feel like we're gonna have a lot of similar ones.
They're all gonna be very similar. But Joel, 30 points a game, 11 rebounds, almost 12, 52% from the field, 41% from three, and 85 from the free throw. Those are ridiculous percentages.
He's playing great defense too.
And they're the number 1 seed.
Yeah, they've got everything.
He's got everything going for him in the MVP race. The other guys you can mention is Jokic, LeBron. Harden has a case, especially with the way he's been playing the last couple weeks. But I think right now it's pretty firmly Joel Embiid.
Yeah.
What you got for Rookie of the Year? I'm sure we have the same.
Yeah, it's unanimous at this point. I don't really know if it can really change unless somebody goes absolutely insane. But we got LaMelo Ball. He hasn't even had the opportunity of starting the whole season, and he's still averaging 16, 6, and 6 on pretty good efficiency. The Hornets are in the playoffs.
Yeah, he's like leading rookies in basically every statistical category. So I don't think there's an argument here.
No, there's not. And also he's so exciting to watch. Right. He's like the Zion. Everybody is paying attention to him. He makes a layup and they post it, but there's a reason for why everybody loves him. So he's really exciting. He's going to be really good in this league for a while.
Yeah. People are starting to call Bleacher Report LaMelo Report. But at the beginning of the season, I did have LaMelo as my Rookie of the Year. You had Obi Toppin. He just hasn't. I don't even know what to say about Obi Toppin.
It's weird because I didn't think the Knicks were going to be good. And I thought, why would they not just like start the guy that they picked? And I thought he was going to get a big opportunity. He's not getting any minutes. When he gets minutes, he's okay, not great. But yeah, it's not looking like a great pick.
Not Rookie of the Year.
No.
The other guys you can consider, Anthony Edwards is having a solid season. He's just struggling from the field percentage-wise. Tyrese Halliburton's having a good season. Emmanuel Quickley. But I think it's LaMelo Ball. No real competition.
Yeah, I'd say the runner-up is Tyrese Halliburton just because he's playing like a veteran sort of. It's kind of like when Malcolm Brogdon was the Rookie of the Year. He's not scoring
under the radar.
But yeah, when he's doing it really efficiently. The Kings aren't good, so that definitely doesn't help, but he's playing really well.
Yeah. Defensive Player of the Year. I have Rudy Gobert.
Okay, I got Ben Simmons.
All right. So at the beginning of the season, I had Anthony Davis. He was playing solid defense. I don't think Defensive Player of the Year worthy, and obviously the injury doesn't help him. And you did have Ben Simmons winning it. So my Rudy Gobert is always going to put up the block numbers, and he's going to hold down the paint. But the main reason why I have him as my Defensive Player of the Year is just because of the massive impact he has on that Jazz team right now. He's surrounded by shooters, and I feel like him holding down the paint and almost neutralizing every big man that steps onto the court against the Jazz. I think that just shows obviously the Jazz are the best team in the league right now. And I just think his impact on the defensive end is what gives him this award.
Yeah, I think both these picks are good. It's kind of just which way you go. Ben Simmons is probably the best perimeter defender in the league this year. He can shut down guards. Like I know he played Donovan Mitchell and he played super well. He kind of just shut him down for the second half. He's done that for a couple guys. He gets steals. He can get blocks. Not the same numbers as Rudy Gobert. Obviously, they're both really good defensive teams, so that definitely helps their case. And yeah, Rudy Gobert is obviously just a beast in the paint, and Ben Simmons is a perimeter guy. So
Yeah.
this could go either way. I'm glad we got different picks for this,
Mhm.
but I'm rocking with Ben Simmons.
Another guy to shout out is Miles Turner. He is
Yeah,
monster. He's averaging like almost 4 blocks a game, I think, right now.
his on-off numbers are insane.
Yeah. So I don't think he deserves the award, but he definitely deserves a shout out as one of the best defensive players in the league. What do we do next? Sixth
What's
man of the year.
next?
At the beginning of the season, I had Jordan Clarkson. You had Spencer Dinwiddie. Spencer Dinwiddie, if you don't know, tore his ACL couple games in, and in the games he did play, he started. So
Hey, look, he was supposed to come off the bench, and I think right now he would be coming off the bench, and
yeah,
he could be a good candidate for this award. But the injury, I mean, I got Jordan Clarkson in this now
yeah,
too.
me
I
too.
think most people do. He's on the best team in the league. He's putting up great numbers, good efficiency, and he's playing the best six-man role in the league. So, I mean,
Yeah.
on the best team, I don't really know what argument you have for someone else.
Right. 18 points a game off the bench. You're gonna be in that conversation, especially like you said, best team in the league. One stat that really stood out, he's shooting 97% from the free throw line. I think he's
Wow.
missed like less than 3 shots at the free throw line this year. He's not shooting a ton from the free throw line just because that's not really his game, but that's pretty impressive. Um, so yeah, most improved player at the beginning of the season, I had Michael Porter Jr. You had Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. I have Christian Wood. Um,
Really?
yes,
Okay.
and I think obviously the main thing against him is his injuries. It's looking like he's probably going to come back in the next week or so, according to the head coach. So, that's obviously good for the Rockets. But I mean, the numbers are obviously there: 22 points a game, 10 rebounds a game, 55% from the field. But I think the main thing that really helps his case for most improved player is that the Rockets have not won a game since he's been out with injury. I think people are talking about that, giving him a case for MVP. I'm not taking it that far, but I mean, that shows how crazy of an impact he's had on that team so far. I mean, to not win a game while one guy is missing, like and it's been like 14 games. So, you know, I think that's the main reason why there's obviously guys who are putting up numbers and are playing consistently, which I'm sure that's why you have your guy, whoever you have. But um, I think that really helps Christian Wood's case, and I have him as most improved player.
Yeah, I like that pick. I got no problem with it. I think his injury might hurt a little bit, but also it helps in a different sense that they are so bad now. First of all, it's not my pick, but I do want to shout out Jeremy Grant. I
Oh, you have
think
someone different?
I do. I do. I have Julius Randle actually,
Okay,
and
yeah.
it's a weird argument, but I think it makes a lot of sense for me at least. First of all, Jeremy Grant is putting up way better numbers than he did before, basically in everything. But I do have to say that he just has the ball in his hands a lot more. He's shooting more. He's shooting less efficient, and I mean he's got a huge role, so I mean that's the reason why. But I don't love giving the award to people who just are in a different situation where they just have a ton more opportunity. I think a guy like Christian Wood, like he showed he could do that in Detroit earlier. So I mean, it's different than this because this is just him on a completely different team having the ball a ton when Christian Wood obviously showcased that earlier. But I have it for Julius Randle just because everything he's doing it better now. And also he's not getting more of an opportunity or anything. He's just better. And
Right.
the biggest thing, the most surprising one to me is his playmaking. He's
Oh,
basically
yeah.
averaging 6 assists per game, which is twice as much as he did earlier. He's shooting more efficiently, more points per game. He's got averaging 11 rebounds per game, shooting 40% from three. His past season high was 34%.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how that happened. Maybe it'll go back down, but it's really impressive. And the Knicks are like the 5 seed in the
They're up
East,
there, yeah.
which I mean, the East is obviously terrible, but still, like, I don't think anybody expected this.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give it to the guy who I think is doing a ton better in the same situation he was
Yeah.
before, but I understand both arguments.
I want to give a shout out to Rob Pelinka and the Lakers because although they're trading away these guys, they've done a
They
great job
drafted so
drafting
well.
talent. Julius
Yeah.
Randle, Jordan Clarkson, Brandon Ingram, Lonzo Ball is looking good. They just, Kuzma has played his role well this year. So we're kind of seeing that whole wave of guys when the Lakers were bad. D'Angelo Russell, even when healthy, um, that all those guys are starting to flourish. And I know that really has nothing to do with the Lakers, but it's just crazy to say that they drafted all of those guys.
Yeah. I think that New Orleans Anthony Davis trade with the Lakers might go down as one of the biggest win-win trades in NBA
I know
history. The Lakers
because
won a championship,
right,
so why would they regret it? But also New Orleans got a ton of young talent that they can still trade away or develop.
yeah.
It's really impressive how they've drafted.
Staying on the most improved player, I was scrolling through NBA Twitter, as I do every once in a while, and I saw an interesting case for most improved player to go to Nikola Jokic because
Okay.
yeah, he's a superstar, right? Right, but think about it. Last year he averaged 19.9 points per game. He's averaging 27 this year. He averaged 9.7 rebounds last year, 11 this year, 7 assists last year, 8.6 assists this year. And, his efficiency is up. He's really better in every facet of his game by a large margin. That's an interesting argument to make. Now, we never really see most improved players go to superstars like Jokic, MVP candidates like Jokic, but it's an interesting way to look at the award.
I like that. I like that you brought that up. I
Yeah.
was looking back on LeBron James stats, and his second season, he went up from 20 points a game to 27.
Mm-hmm.
And that's that's a most improved thing. And I feel like superstars sometimes do that. And I mean, this is, yeah, I've never even really thought about it, but that's really interesting case. And I mean, like you said, I feel like it's just that he's a superstar. Like
Right.
people thought of Jokic as already an amazing player. So like, how much better can he really be? But I mean, that's a huge jump. I never really realized that.
Yeah. So shout out Jokic. On it, I actually I don't see him winning it
The
just because
media
of
would have to
right.
take that run in if that were to happen.
And then coach of the year, we both had Frank Vogel at the beginning of the season. I believe we should both have the same guy. I have Quinn Snyder
Yeah.
of the Jazz. I mean, he's done such a great job with that team. He's kind of revitalized, reconstructed the way that offense runs. They shoot a lot of threes and they play phenomenal team defense. And they're first in the league. There's not really, I mean,
Yeah.
that's it, really.
He's got the perfect system for the modern NBA. He's obviously benefiting by his star players, but he's doing great with them. And then his role players, he's getting the best out of them too. They got 3 All-Stars this year, but I mean,
Two
they
and
would
a
only
half.
have. Yeah, I'm happy for Mike Conley though, so I gotta
But
throw
I
him in.
kind of feel like he could have been the guy that's like the one guy that never made it. But then he got that like pity all-star game, and all people are gonna be like, oh, he just got one. I don't know.
He should have
But
earlier in his career though, so
absolutely.
it's
No,
fine.
no doubt about that. Um, but I mean, dude, your boy DeMar DeRozan, he made it over him.
Yeah,
Um,
I feel like it was the wrong year, right idea, but
well said, my
yeah.
good sir. So that's what we got for our NBA midseason awards. If you have a problem, come at us. We'll be posting this on Instagram and TikTok. We're getting a lot of love / hate on TikTok recently.
Yep.
If you're listening, who knows if you are? We are fueled by the haters.
You should never watch baseball again, Diego.
That's their favorite. If you guys aren't aware and you're listening, that's their favorite saying. Tell us that we can't watch sports ever again, or we're not allowed to have an opinion ever again. So that's always good. But we digress. Moving on, we have our not our final next week sneak peek. We're going to be doing our top 10 overall players in the MLB. But this week we are doing our top 10 outfielders. Yes, outfielders. I know that is not one position. I do watch baseball. Even when you guys tell me I can't. So, top 10 outfielders. Let's get right into it. My honorable mentions. I have 2. Michael Brantley is one of them. I feel like, you obviously, you're an Indians fan. He played there for a while. You know about him. Um, he's just consistently one of the best hitters in the league. Underappreciated career, almost 300 hitter. He's made 4 All-Star games, has a Silver Slugger, and he just always puts up numbers. Really.
Yeah. There's no Houston cheating argument for him because he came in after them, after
Mhm.
the whole cheating scandal. And he's still putting up insane numbers. I watched him on the Indians for what, like 10 seasons. I mean, every year he would come out, hit 300. He had an almost MVP season earlier in his career. He hits a ton of doubles. He could get you 20 home runs on a good year. The average is the biggest thing. He'll play all right defense, but the outfield position, or I guess the 3 positions, are stacked if you combine them.
Right.
So if we were doing left fielders, he'd definitely be up there, but I can't put him in the top 10. But like you said, he's a great player.
He's one of your honorable mentions.
Yeah.
Okay, and then one guy that I don't know if you can look at honorable mentions 2 different ways. You can look at them as your 11, 12 guys, which I mean I've done for most of the list, but this guy is more of a guy to look out for, and that's Randy Arozarena. Um, he had the monster 2020 playoffs. Obviously, he broke the record for most home runs in a postseason. Um, and that Rays team, I think, got worse, but he's obviously still there. And I don't even think he's played 100 games in his career yet. So that's obviously taking into account, which is why he's not even 11, 12. It's just someone I wanted to mention. I think he's either going to take a major step forward or kind of fall back down to reality. So he'll be interesting to watch.
Yeah. My honorable mention, I think it might surprise you because I might have a guy that you don't have on your list at all in my top 10, but I got Marcelo Zuna.
Mm.
Um, I think that nobody talks about him a lot, but he's been very good. And last season, he had one of the best seasons in the league. Led the league in, first of all, plate appearances, but also home runs and RBIs. He's a great power hitter, but he showcased his ability to just get on base. He batted 338 last season with a 1.067 OPS. I mean, that's great. He won the Silver Slugger. He's won a Gold Glove before. I think he's an underrated defender too. Um, he had a couple pretty bad mishaps in the outfield last season, which was pretty funny. But other than that, he's been good. And he's been a 2-time All-Star. I mean, like I said, the outfield position stacked. I wouldn't have a
Yeah.
problem if you put him at like 10, but yeah, I wanted to give him a shout out at least.
Yeah, shout out Marcelo Zuna. Again, he's probably around that range for me as well, 11, 12, 13. It's just I wanted to talk about a Rosarena because I feel like he's a storyline this year. At number 10, I have Giancarlo Stanton.
Okay.
Um, he's so good when he's on the field. Like he'll hit 50 home runs if he can play, you know, enough games. And by enough, Giancarlo Stanton by his, terms is between 130 and 150 games. Um, but he just hasn't been able to. He's won an MVP, 4 All-Stars, 2 Silver Sluggers, 905 career OPS, which if you're not aware, if you're close to 1,000 or at 1,000 for your career OPS, that's very good. That's good OPS numbers. Um, but I mean, I have to put him at 10 because he is so dominant and so good when he's healthy. But the only reason why he's not higher is because he hasn't been.
Yeah, I agree. I don't have him on my list just because he's been hurt for so long. Like, I haven't really even seen him play healthy in 3 seasons. But like you said, when he plays, he's so good. So I hope he has a bounce back season. We said earlier that the Yankees just keep getting hurt. And
Yeah.
I mean, this is another case of that. So I like the pick. I'm glad you mentioned him because I didn't have him. My number 10, I'm guessing you don't have him, is Charlie Blackmon.
I don't.
Yeah, I think that a lot of people don't love him because he's sort of the epitome of like Coors Field is what boosts your stats up. But I can't just ignore how good these stats are. I mean, last season he was batting 500 for like half the year, and then he obviously came back down. But still, he bats over 300 every single season. He's had seasons where he hits 30 plus home runs. and you can argue Coors Field, which definitely plays a part in it. That's why I don't have him higher, because these stats alone would make him higher. But I mean, he's so good, and he just gets on base plus the power, hits a lot of doubles. I understand the argument of Coors Field. It helps. It totally does. There's other guys like Trevor Story who we put lower because of it.
Oh,
But
we got hate for that.
yeah, we got a lot of hate for that.
Love you guys.
But yeah, I wanted to put him at 10, just give him some love at least. But I get the other argument too.
Yeah. I mean, he's obviously a great hitter. It's just this position. The entire outfield obviously is so stacked when you merge three positions that have so many superstars together. Just, you know, I could see him in around 10 to 15, I'd say, for me, for sure. My number 9 is a guy who's got a new home, George Springer. Just signed with the Toronto Blue Jays. Again, the Astros situation, the cheating, you could throw that into the mix. 3-time All-Star, 2 Silver Sluggers, World Series MVP, but I do not count that World Series MVP because
nope,
not gonna do it. But I mean, disregarding that, he's a great hitter. He was one of the few guys that could hit on the road for the Astros. So, take that as you will. And he's been a great fielder his career. He's been solid out there. So I have George Springer at 9.
Yeah, I have him at 9 too. I think you said it perfectly, so I'm just gonna move on.
Wow,
I got Bryce Harper at 8.
I have him at 8 too.
All right, so he had that one season, which is like one of the best in NBA history in the recent years.
Yeah.
And then since then, basically everybody's just called him overrated. But I feel like he's become underrated at this point.
He has been so overhated that
overhated is a good word.
That he is underrated.
Yeah.
Because I mean, dude, he's an MVP. Like,
yeah,
he'll put up the numbers.
I mean, first of all, he's probably one of the best. I mean, he's got one of the best like eyes at the plate. He's led the league in walks twice, and people don't seem to talk about that at all. They say he's a power hitter. They compare it to guys like Jay Bruce. No. But like Jay Bruce can't get 130 walks in a season. And he's also slugged 900 for his career. Like nobody talks about him in the upper tier of players anymore, it seems like, because they just hate on him. And I get that he's like a cocky guy, he's a cocky player, but he's so good, and I think he's exciting to watch. Yeah. And I think that's great for the game of baseball. He can put up 35 home runs a season, solid average, put up RBIs. He's underrated, like base runner too. I think he's got it all. I mean, he's
got that
pretty
cannon
good defender too.
Yeah, he's got that cannon in right.
Yeah, and I don't know why people underrate him or overhate him, whatever you want to use, but I think he's still really good.
Yeah, I think that's what it is the overhating, because when people kind of start hating on a player, they're like they start kind of thinking like, oh, he's actually bad, like he's not good anymore. But without even considering, his production, it's more just like the image of the player. So I think that's a thing we see a lot in sports. We saw it with LeBron a lot when he went to the Heat. He was really overhated, and therefore people just kind of brushed him off as one of the better players because they just didn't like him. And that's a weird comparison, but it happens in sports, and I think it's what's happening with Bryce Harper right now. At number 7, I have Aaron Judge.
Yep.
You have him at 7?
Yeah.
Let's go. But I just, in his 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, he's played 3 full 162 game seasons. His rookie year, he was a September call-up, so he played 27 games that year. But his rookie year, he played 155 games. That was his ridiculous season. The next season, he only played 112. Season after that, 102. And last year in the 60-game season, he played 28. So, I mean, you take everything that he's done with a grain of salt, but you have to acknowledge that he is so good. He's like, I don't, he's one of the best, if not the best, pure power hitter in baseball when he's on the field. Um, and I think that's what really puts him up there. Just because when he's on the field, he's a monster.
Yeah, another Yankee that keeps getting injured. He's been a little bit more healthy, so that's good. But I mean, when he's on the field, he's so good. So that's why I have him here too. I think you said it well. I do think that he strikes out a ton,
Yeah.
and I mean that's definitely a knock on him. But I mean, if you're hitting 50 home runs in a season, then I mean, it doesn't really matter. Um, so yeah, I got him there too. What's the next one? Six.
Six.
Six. I have Ronald Acuna Jr. I think there's an argument. Oh, you're okay. Yeah, so there's definitely an argument for him being higher. Um, I have him this low. There's
Oh.
guys above him that I want to talk about later, but um, I'm kind of worried now that I'm gonna get harassed on TikTok, but that's fine. Um, he last season, the one before the shortened one, he had such a great year, and he put up 41 home runs, not even being like a tall big guy. So it's cool to see that. I think he's all right defensively, but I mean, obviously offensively is where you're gonna want him. He's a career 280 average, and he's only 22 years old. He can still get a ton better, and he's already had that almost MVP season. Slugging 538, it's great. I mean, he's super fast, led the league in stolen bases with 37 a couple of seasons ago, and in runs. So he gets on base and he scores. He's perfect for them. I mean, I obviously you have him a lot higher up, so
Sheesh.
I'll see what you say about him, but that's why I have him there.
Okay. I mean, okay. I these guys are close. I think 3 through 6 can be that those are all pretty close. My six is Christian Yelich.
Okay.
Um, he's an MVP winner. He's won a Gold Glove, um, 3 Silver Sluggers. He's won 2 batting titles. Career 296 hitter. He struggled last year, which we saw with honestly quite a few star players in the shortened season, which is interesting. Um, but he was just so good in 2018, 2019. And, you know, I just think he's a great all around player. And just as a preface, to have someone top 7 in the entire outfield category, that they're a great player. Like, it's not a knock on Christian Yelich. I just think these guys are better ahead of him. But I mean, he's been consistent since he's joined the Brewers, and he's just one of the better hitters in the league. So I have him at 6.
Yeah. You might hate me for this next one. But I got Cody Bellinger there.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
I don't hate you for it, as long as I mean, we'll
um,
see.
I you might hate me for this statement. I think he's a little overrated right now. I understand how good he was a couple seasons, but putting him as like MVP favorite, I think, is what a lot of people had him last year. And obviously, he had a down year. I mean, it's one shortened season, so you can't take a ton out from that. Um, but I mean, the season before, he batted 305 with 47 home runs and
Yeah.
115 RBIs. That's crazy. He also was rookie of the year. He's only had 4 seasons in the league. He's still a young guy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, with 39 home runs as a rookie. That's really impressive. Um, and I mean, he plays really good defense too. He's won a Gold Glove, and I don't think a ton of people really praise him for that, but I think he's really good on both sides. I think he's super solid, and I want you to talk about him more than me
Yeah.
because you're a Dodgers fan, but I have him at 5 just because how stacked this is.
I have Cody Bellinger at 5 as well.
Oh, okay.
Um, so I don't hate you for
I thought,
where you put him.
never mind, never mind.
um, but I mean, like you said, he's so young and he's already done so much in his career. MVP, Rookie of the Year, Gold Glove, Silver Slugger, World Series, 2 All-Star games. And I think he may be a bit overrated at the plate. I'll give you that. But he might get a bit underrated in the field. He has been so good out there for the Dodgers. He's played first base, center field, right field, left field for the first 4 years of his career. It looks like he's solidified himself as the center fielder alongside Betts, who I'm sure we're going to talk about later. Um, and he, one thing I wanted to highlight is in 3.5 seasons. So that's about what he's played because of last year. You can call it half a season. It's obviously less than half of 162 games. He's got 123 home runs in 3.5 seasons. That's an average of almost 40 a season. And I get that he's young, and I get that that's, you can't really say that he's going to do that for the rest of his career. But those numbers are some of the best in baseball history. So I think that needs to be acknowledged that he has had one of the best home run production, careers for the first 4 years of someone's career. And like you said, consistency is obviously key with Bellinger. He struggled at times, but then he's also been a guy that when you go up, you're like, oh my God, this guy's just gonna hit an absolute tank. But yeah, you said it. He's a bit overrated offensively, but I'll counter that with that he's a bit underrated defensively. So I have him at 5.
All right, I like that. So I guess we flip-flopped these two guys, probably, maybe not, I don't know. But I got Christian Yelich at my 4.
Acuna is my 4.
Yeah, okay. He had an obvious down year last season. He batted only 200 with still a 786 OPS, which is actually not bad.
Yeah, especially for hitting 200.
Yeah, but the 2 seasons before that, when he won MVP and then finished second, he had a 327 average with a 1.046 OPS. He had 80 home runs and 207 RBIs, and also walked 148 times. That's crazy numbers. And I mean, he led the league in average those 2 seasons, in slugging and OPS, both of them. So, I mean, he's 1 season removed from being basically the favorite to win MVP. And if he could have a bounce back season, I think he can be that good again. Obviously, he's only 29 years old, so he's not old. But I understand the argument of he was pretty bad last season, or at least not Christian Yelich good. But I can't just ignore those 2 MVP seasons, at least for me.
Yeah. I have Acuna at 4 for the main reason that he has been so dominant and so good at such a young age, and I only think he's going to get better. And the aspect of the game, you touched on it, is that's almost overlooked. Obviously, he's putting up the offensive numbers and the home runs that everyone knows about. But, dude, in 2019, he stole 37 bases. He's a guy that could legit work for a 40-40 season. And you'd never really see that. At least 30-30. He obviously did it that season. And if you don't know what I mean, that's just a home run stolen base mark. That's kind of like, it's very rarely reached, because usually when you hit home runs, you don't steal the bases. And if you steal the bases, you don't hit the home runs. So when you have a guy that does both, I think that's just a rare talent. And I think he's up there this season. I keep kind of foreshadowing to our MLB preview episode, but he's a guy that you could look at for MVP this year. He's just a great all-around player. Like you said, he's good defensively, not great, but just that production on the base paths, at the plate, power for average, scores runs, gets runs in. I have him at 4. And I think we have the same top 3.
I would guess.
We should. So you have Juan Soto at 3.
Yeah. So Juan Soto, I mean, the man at the age of 21 years old.
Ridiculous.
Led the league in average at 350, on base percentage of 490, slugging at 695, OPS 1.185, OPS plus at 212.
Okay, also an OPS of 1,185, ladies and gentlemen. What?
And it's a shortened season. He played 47 games, but you can't just get lucky and put up those numbers.
No, because you look at 2019, he had 34 home runs and 110 RBIs.
Crazy.
It's like he was 20 back then. He couldn't celebrate when they won the World Series because he couldn't drink the champagne.
This man's had like the best start to his career of like anybody I know. He's already a champion. He's 21 years old. and he had that season already. And I mean, he finished 5th in MVP voting, which is crazy to me. He won the Silver Slugger at least, so at least there's that. But I mean, I don't even know. Like, I'm excited for next year because I don't know what he's capable of. But being this young and already being able to do that, like, I'm really excited because
Dude, I'm
who
so
knows?
excited to watch Soto this year.
Yeah,
And I mean, like I said, he's another guy you can look at for MVP. Like he's up there on most people's MVP watch just because where's the ceiling for him? If he's 21 years old, how far can this kid go? And you could say the same for, guys like Acuna and maybe Bellinger. But Soto being that dominant and that just so consistently good at the plate at that young age, it's just something you never see. It's like a once in a generation type of thing. So, I mean, I don't even know what else to say. He's so good.
he's so good.
So at 2, we both have Mookie Betts. I'm going to say it for you because
Yeah.
that better be okay.
Absolute blasphemy if I didn't have that.
Just to read it off: MVP, 2 World Series, 4 All Stars, 4 Silver Sluggers, 5 Gold Gloves, a batting title in 2018, in just 6 seasons. And I feel like Mookie sometimes gets you look at him, you're like, oh, that's a seasoned veteran. He's been around for a while. It's 6 seasons and a career 301 hitter with an 895 OPS. And I might, let me sit here. Let me look. I'll call him the best defensive outfielder in Major League Baseball. So, I mean, he wins and he wins. So, I feel like there's not much else to say about Mookie.
Yeah, you're a Dodgers fan, and I get that you love him a ton, but like, there's no argument against him being this good. Like, the man won 5 Gold Gloves in a row the last 5 seasons and 4 Silver Sluggers, and then he also won MVP and finished 2nd this
Last
season.
year, yeah.
He's got everything. There's no hole in his game. I mean, he's just a perfect outfielder.
He's the ideal baseball player. He's got everything for him. And the next guy is obviously, you could say it for him too, but I just feel like Mookie just embodies a baseball player.
And he's only 5'9" too.
Exactly.
Which, like,
it's so
is
sick.
Cool that he's not like a huge guy too.
I'm as tall as Mookie Betts, dude.
He's just got everything.
He's got it all. He's one of the most, if not, he's one of the best, if not the best, well-rounded player in baseball. And I think the gap between 3 and 2 is pretty significant in terms of outfielders. I know Soto's so good hitting wise and he's so young, but I would say that gap there is pretty large right now.
Yeah. I think Soto later in his career obviously could get up there, but it's the amount that these top 2 guys have accomplished already is wild. And then at number 1, I mean, it'd be crazy if anybody didn't put him here. He's the best player in baseball. He has a case for the best player of all time. And when it's said and done, I think he actually might be, which is crazy that we're watching this.
Considering
also really sad that he's on the Angels.
But that's true. He's only played 9 seasons, and we're talking about that.
Yeah, he's only 28.
The guys that we're comparing him to have played 20 seasons in the MLB.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's just here. You can talk about him because I did my spiel on Betts.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just talk about the stats side of things because I love that. But there's just so much bolded here, which means you led the league. But okay, he's led the league in runs 4 times, RBIs once, stolen bases once, walks 3 times, strikeouts once, but who cares? On base percentage 4 times, slugging twice, OPS 4 times, OPS plus, what is that? 6 times, total bases once. And then he's finished basically top 5 in MVP voting the last 7 years, and he's won it.
No, he has finished top 5 in every full season of his career.
Crazy. And then Silver Slugger basically every year. He's got like 8 of them.
Yeah.
And he's also a good defender.
Yeah. He hasn't gotten that elusive Gold Glove, and he's always talked about it, how he wants to get it. But
dude, he's got those highlight plays though too, that just show how crazy of an athlete he is.
Like I said, 9 seasons, right? 3 MVPs, Rookie of the Year, 8 All-Stars, 8 Silver Sluggers, 2 All-Star Game MVPs. And I mean, there's obviously the one dink. He just doesn't play in the playoffs, and you really
It's not
can't
his
blame
fault
that on
though.
him, right? But you know, and for most people, the a pedigree when it comes to ranking the best players of all time really is how you perform in the playoffs and if you perform in the playoffs, and he hasn't, and you can't. I don't know. In my opinion, you can't use that against him, but people definitely do and will continue to. Um, but dude, he's got a career 1,000 OPS. That's like OPS. I think has become kind of one of the most, if not the most important stats for a hitter in baseball because it basically combines two of the more important things that you do as a hitter, and that's on base plus slugging. So it's how well you can get on base, which is basically getting hits and walks, and how well you hit for power. So to have it at 1,000 for your entire career over 9 seasons, it's something special.
Yeah. There you could look at every single thing and then just be like, oh, he like basically is one of the best, if not the best at that.
Yeah.
Like even stolen bases. How do you get 49 in a season? Like that's crazy. And then also you're the best hitter in the league. I mean, he had a down season last year and his OPS was 993. That is ridiculous.
I think,
Um,
yeah. Right now, the betting odds, I think, for MVP are Trout and Betts for AL and NL, which is crazy because we're seeing two guys playing in LA that are just consistently the two best players. You could definitely argue, and this is kind of a spoiler for next week, but I argue that are the best players in the league, and they're just so good, no matter how you look at it.
yeah.
It's it's that simple, really. It I don't even know what else to say. Mike Trout, we're looking at.
I
I
wish I wish we had Dom on this podcast because he
dude,
could talk about him for literally hours. But
listen, we need to Dom. If you know us, you know Dom. We've been trying to get him on the podcast for a while now. We're gonna keep trying for you guys because we love you guys. But you know, one of these days. But yeah, um, thank you very much for listening, for watching, like and subscribe. Remember, give us a rating, follow us on all our social medias. The World of Sports Podcast. We talked a lot about NFL news this today. We gave our NBA Midseason Awards, and then we ranked our top 10 outfielders in the MLB. But yeah, like I said, thank you so much for listening, for watching. If you listened this far, go ahead and comment um, Mike Trout. Mike Trout likes fish. Comment Mike Trout likes fish on one of our social media accounts, and you'll get a shout out. But yeah, anyways, thank you so much for listening or watching. For my co-host Logan Ring, my name is Diego Sandoval. Signing off.
signing off.